I've got such a treat for you today. I found these old nightstands for $99 in a furniture depot, and we got to work on them and turned them into masterpieces. It was bring your kid to work day when I first started these, so the kids got to help out, and it was so nice because cleaning these and sand scuffing them took a lot of time. We used TSP and other cleaner degreasers to really scrub these down, get in all the cracks and crevices. They were super dirty, so we did have to clean the inside as well. Cleaning is super important for prep because you don't want to sand and push down into the wood grain any residue or cleaning products that had been on here or any grime or gunk. You don't want to press it down into the wood grain because then it's going to stay and it's not going to allow your paint to adhere. Then we got our protective gear on so we can start sanding. I've taught my daughter how to use the Surf Prep sander. It's a bit of an easier sander to teach a child to use because you can move it in all directions, just like you can an orbital, especially if one doesn't pull too hard. You can teach your kids how to use those too. That's about as far as my kids lasted, but that's okay. I only have them help me when they want to, and also I pay them, which is legal in the state of North Carolina, and tax-free for me and tax-free for them. It's wonderful. The step you didn't see me do is prime this baby. Now, I primed this before I was completely done prepping it. And so, first mistake, I knew better, but I didn't exactly know what type of base I wanted to put on these. And so you'll kind of see why I had to go back and reprime in just a little bit. The front frame of this had a lot of gaps, and so I used some clear caulking and sealed that shut. Now, over at my dad's workshop, I took these nightstands because he's got all my scrap wood over there and the table saw and the planer. The base of these was awful. It was only supported by some faux wood. The front was wood, but the sides were not wood. So I'm going to take this all apart. Basically, you unscrew what you can unscrew, and then the rest is usually held in by some sort of really deep staples. And so you just have to have a chisel and a hammer or a screwdriver, and you can just hammer this stuff out. The next step of this process was finding some scrap 2x4s and cutting them to size so that they would fit in a perfect square right inside that frame. I'm going to use my favorite Kreg jig tool to drill some holes in so that I can screw these together once they're on the inside. I put them together so that I would make sure that they would fit before I drilled the Kreg holes because you don't want to continue cutting the piece after you've already drilled the holes. They go in specifically for the length of your piece. I used wood glue when I was putting in the pieces. I put little shims on the sides because they weren't as raised up as the front and back. I put them together and then I made sure that I cut with a jigsaw, I cut the frame of it to be flush with the 2x4s. I didn't film that because I honestly was scared of using this jigsaw in a straight line, but I cut it down and I found that it wasn't exactly level. I then pulled out a tool that I have never used before. It's an electric hand planer. If you haven't used one of these, oh my gosh, it's addicting. This one's by Skilsaw and it's in my Amazon storefront, so check that link in the description. But basically you can set it to take off a 32, I don't know. You can set it to take off different heights from the wood, and it just needed to be planed in certain areas. And so I made sure that I held that framing, the piece that's going to be the apron, on it so that I could see which places were too high and which places were too low so that I could get it leveled out. The only downside to using this is if it's not on real wood, it's going to tear it apart. So as I was going through the edges, the side boards of this are pressed wood and it was chewing them apart as soon as I'd come off of it. So I'm going to have to take some putty and fix all of those. Once I got my frames all set up, I took my table saw and I planed this old barnwood that I had that I'm making the apron with through this to make sure that everything was 2 inches. If you missed our office remodel, you're going to have to go and check it out. We built an entire bookshelf, like built-in cabinet with this barnwood. We got it for free from a friend of my parents, and it's been so fun to build different things with it. Now, as you can see, I put 2 of these together with wood glue, clamps, left it for 24 hours, and you guys, this is never coming apart again. This is how I created the legs. Now, working with a miter saw is tricky because I don't have the right one to really make these cuts very safely, but I have used a miter saw for a long time. I am more of a professional, so please use this at your caution. When I am cutting these angles, this is probably not the proper way to do it. I'm probably going to get yelled at, but it was working for me, and so I took my own risk. Please do not take the same risk. I put this to a 25-degree angle. I put my tape where I needed to keep my board from going further and to make sure that I would make the same angled cuts. And I cut down a 25-degree angle on every leg, and then I cut it to a 7-inch leg so that it would fit with the apron and come out and be the height that I needed it to be. Once I got all the legs cut, I double checked my measurements for the aprons before I drilled the Craig holes so that I could make sure that the front and side seams of this base are going to match and be perfectly aligned with the nightstand. I put 2 Craig holes in each, even though they were very skinny boards, because you don't want one, as that board could twist and just be warped. You'll also notice when I put this frame together that I drilled some Craig holes so that I can screw it down into those 2x4s. This thing is not going to come apart, but you have to drill them and put the base together a certain way so that those drill down into the base. I was finally able to take these nightstands back to my workshop. Thank you, Dad, so much for letting me keep all my woodworking tools at your house. I used this Durham's hard putty for the first time, and it actually works just as good as Bondo, in my opinion. And it's less toxic smelling, so it's really nice if you need to work inside. The sides were super chewed up where that pressed wood is, and then I decided just to fill this whole base so that everything would be seamless. The putty was really easy to work with. You mix a little bit with some water and you get it on the piece. Just like Bondo, you have a certain amount of time. But I filled these pretty deep, and when I started sanding them, everything had dried within like 30 minutes. So it was great. It didn't smell at all. It was a nice paste to work with, and I was able to fill some pretty deep gouges. I'm going to take some 80 grit sandpaper and make sure that I sand this all the way flush so that I can reprime this and get it painted. When I got this thing reprimed, I went through with my Surf Prep sander with a lighter grit and I got everything really smooth, and then I applied my first coat of a sage green lacquer. I had this color made, it's really close to dried sage by Dixie Belle, but I had it made in a water-based lacquer because it dries super fast, it doesn't need a top coat, and it's gorgeous. You can see a lot of my other videos that have me spraying furniture to learn how to paint furniture. I even have one if you want to hand paint. I can help you get no brush strokes, so go check out that video. I didn't film me painting this because I had a few other projects that I was working on at the time, including this and this, so my workshop was very full, but yes, we painted them with a Wagner 5000 spray gun. Once these were done, I went through with a paintbrush and I did any touch-ups on the undersides of the drawer right there, and then I added the knobs while my husband helped me drill in this base. We used 1.5-inch Craig screws for this, and then I'm going to take you over to the drawers. I actually bought these adjustable poles on Amazon. They're linked in my storefront. You can check out the description. They can fit anywhere up to 6 inches. I put them at 5 because I love my Craig cabinet hardware jig. It sets it at 5 inches exactly, and it's completely accurate when you screw it down, like there's no mess ups. So I made a custom blend stain for this to match the frame of the wood because this part was raw. So I went through with my legs and I touched up all the stained part to make it look gorgeous and flawless and complete throughout. Now, if you've seen some of my other videos, you guys would not believe this is a staging booth. So let's see how far we've come. And now here's the big reveal. This is actually a staging booth in my driveway because I get great natural lighting. It's a vinyl brick backdrop, also in my Amazon storefront, a faux baseboard, and a faux wall paneling that I put on the ground. And then I'm able to stage my pieces. And I sold these within 12 hours. So I bought them for $99. I sold them for $600. They took a lot of work. Yes, they took a lot of work, but I loved the process and it was so good for me to learn how to build these bases. What do you think about this color, the handles I chose, the barnwood base? Let me know your thoughts about this furniture flip. I have new videos out every week, so make sure you go back and watch the old ones, especially the office renovation that took us 7 weeks. But I will see you guys next week with another furniture flip. If you haven't yet subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. It helps my channel out, and you watching this helps my channel out so much. So thank you guys so much for being here. I'll see you soon.